The cargo bay doors of the Valiant opened with a hiss of pressurized air. Commander Jake Morrison stood at attention as the rescue shuttle landed on the deck. He had done this dozens of times before. Prisoner exchanges were routine now, 3 months into the war with the Crithians. The aliens would return some humans, and humanity would send back captured Crithian soldiers. Nobody liked it, but it was better than letting people die in enemy camps. "How many this time?" Jake asked his second officer, Lieutenant Danny Cooper. Danny checked his tablet. 15 civilians from the Kepler colony, mostly workers and scientists. The Crithians hit that mining operation pretty hard. Jake nodded. The Kepler 442b colony had been one of the first targets when the war started. Over 300 people lived there, studying the planet and mining rare minerals. Only 40 survived the initial attack. These 15 were the lucky ones who made it through the Crithian prison camps. The shuttle ramp lowered. One by one, the rescued humans walked out. They looked tired and thin, but alive. Medical teams rushed forward with blankets and water. Jake watched each person carefully. It was his job to make sure everyone was accounted for and safe. Then he saw her. She was young, maybe 25 or 26. Brown hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. Simple clothes that were too big for her small frame. She walked slowly, like each step took effort. But there was something about her eyes. They seemed distant, like she was looking at something far away that nobody else could see. "Who's that one?" Jake asked. Danny scrolled through his list. Claire Bennett. She was a botanist at the research station, studying alien plant life before the attack. "She looks different from the others." "How so?" Jake couldn't explain it. Maybe it was the way she moved, or the blank expression on her face. The other rescued people showed emotion, relief, fear, sadness. This woman showed nothing. Just a feeling. Make sure she gets a full medical check. Danny nodded and made a note. 2 hours later, Jake was in his office reviewing reports when his communicator buzzed. It was Dr. Lisa Chen from Medical. "Commander, you need to come to Medical Bay 3 right now." The urgency in her voice made Jake move fast. He arrived in 5 minutes. Lisa was waiting outside one of the examination rooms. Her face was pale. "What's wrong?" Jake asked. "It's Claire Bennett, the botanist from the shuttle. I found something during her examination." Lisa pulled up an image on her tablet. It showed a scan of a human back, focused on the left shoulder blade. Jake stared at the image. Beneath the skin was a mark, a pattern of silver lines that seemed to glow. The lines formed a symbol that looked both mechanical and organic at the same time. It was beautiful and strange. "What is that? A tattoo?" "No, sir. It's under her skin. The scanners show it's actually part of her tissue now. And Commander, it's alive. The pattern is moving, changing, very slowly, but it's definitely active." Jake felt a cold sensation in his chest. "What do you mean, alive?" "I mean, it's rewriting her DNA, right now, as we speak. I've never seen anything like it. This isn't human technology. This isn't even Crithian technology as far as I know." "Does she know about it?" Lisa shook her head. "I haven't told her yet. I wanted to inform you first. But Commander, there's something else. When I asked her about any injuries or treatments during her captivity, she said she doesn't remember much, just bits and pieces. She remembers being captured, then waking up in a cell, then being transferred to the exchange point. Everything in between is blank." Jake thought for a moment. Memory loss from trauma? Maybe, or maybe whatever put that mark on her also took her memories. "I think the Crithians were experimenting on her." Jake felt anger rise in his chest. The Crithians were cruel, but this was something else. "Run every test you can. I want to know what that mark is and what it does. And Lisa, keep this quiet. Don't file an official report yet." Lisa looked surprised but nodded. "Yes, sir." Jake went to find Danny Cooper. He found him in the intelligence office, surrounded by computer screens. "Danny, I need you to look something up. It's classified, so don't leave a trail." Danny raised an eyebrow but turned to his terminal. "What am I looking for?" Jake sent him the image of the mark. Find out if this symbol appears anywhere in our database, especially in captured Crithian files. It took Danny 3 hours. When he called Jake back to the intelligence office, his hands were shaking slightly. "Sir, you need to see this." Danny pulled up an image on his main screen. It was a photograph of ancient ruins on a dead planet far from human space. The walls were covered in strange writing, and there, in the center of one wall, was the symbol. Exactly the same as the mark on Claire's back. "Where is this?" Jake asked. "Planet designation X447. The Crithians claimed it about 20 years ago. It's been dead for thousands of years, maybe millions. These ruins are all that's left of whoever lived there. The Crithians have been studying them ever since." Danny pulled up another file. This one was written in Crithian language, but the computer had translated it. Jake read the words slowly. The silence mark. "Whoever bears this symbol becomes invisible to all machines. Heat, light, sound, all detection methods fail. The bearer exists in the spaces between technology. The ancients called them the Silent Ones. They could walk through any defense and leave no trace." Jake read it again to make sure he understood. "This is real? Not just a legend?" "The Crithians seem to think it's real, sir. They've been searching for this mark across multiple star systems. According to these files, they believe finding someone who can activate the mark would give them an unstoppable advantage in the war." Jake sat down heavily. His mind raced with possibilities. And they had Claire. They must have tried to give her the mark to create their own silent one. But then they lost her in the prisoner exchange. "Sir, do you think they know what they had?" "They know. That's why they agreed to this exchange. They wanted to get rid of evidence. Or maybe something went wrong with their experiment." Jake made a decision. It was risky, but the war was not going well for humanity. They needed every advantage they could get. "Danny, I want you to change the records. Claire Bennett died in the Crithian prison camp before the exchange. She never made it to the Valiant." "Sir? Do it. If the Crithians think she's dead, they won't come looking for her. And if our own command doesn't know she exists, they can't take her away for their own experiments. Right now, she's our secret. Maybe our only advantage in this war." Danny hesitated, then nodded. His fingers moved across the keyboard, changing files, erasing records. Within minutes, Claire Bennett officially no longer existed. Jake stood up. "Set course for Research Station Omega." And Danny, not a word about this to anyone. Research Station Omega looked like a small moon from a distance. It floated in the rings of Saturn, hidden among billions of ice chunks and rocks. Most people didn't know it existed. That was the point. This was where humanity tested weapons and technology too secret for normal military bases. Claire stood at the window of her assigned quarters and watched the ice particles drift past. She had been here for 2 weeks now. Nobody would tell her why. Commander Morrison said it was for her safety, that the Crithians might still be looking for her. But she knew there was more to it. The mark on her back felt warm most of the time. Sometimes it pulsed with light. She could feel it even when she couldn't see it. In her dreams, she heard voices speaking in languages she didn't understand. They whispered things that faded from her memory when she woke up. A knock on her door pulled her from her thoughts. "Come in," she said. Captain Michelle Andrews entered. She was tall, with short black hair and kind eyes. She had been assigned as Claire's liaison, which meant she was the person who explained things and made sure Claire didn't feel like a prisoner. "Good morning, Claire. How are you feeling today?" "The same as yesterday. Confused. Worried. Tired of being kept in the dark." Michelle nodded. "I know this is hard, but today we're going to try something different. Dr. Hughes wants to run some tests. Nothing painful, I promise. We just want to understand what that mark can do." Claire turned from the window. "And if I say no?" "Then we don't do the tests. You're not a prisoner here, Claire. But we hope you'll help us. The war isn't going well. If that mark gives us some kind of advantage, we need to know about it." Claire thought about the people who died at the Kepler colony, her friends and co-workers. Good people who were just trying to do their jobs. If she could help prevent more deaths, didn't she have a responsibility to try? "Okay," she said quietly. "I'll help." The testing room was large and white, filled with equipment Claire didn't recognize. Dr. Raymond Hughes was waiting with a team of scientists and soldiers. He was an older man with gray hair and a gentle smile. "Thank you for agreeing to this, Claire," he said. "We're going to take this slow. First, I want you to stand in the center of the room. We're going to scan you with different types of sensors. Just stand there and relax." Claire walked to the marked spot on the floor. All around her, machines hummed to life. Cameras pointed at her from every angle. Sensors blinked with lights. "Thermal imaging is active," one scientist called out. "I'm reading normal body heat, 98.6 degrees. Electromagnetic scan shows normal human readings," another said. Dr. Hughes nodded. "Claire, now I want you to think about the mark. Focus on it. See if you can feel it doing anything." Claire closed her eyes. She thought about the silver pattern on her back. In her mind, she could see it clearly, every line and curve. As she focused on it, something changed. The mark felt different. Cooler. Like it was pulling something from deep inside her. "Thermal reading is dropping," a scientist said, surprise in his voice. "Down to 95 degrees, 92, 88. Sir, she's disappearing from thermal." "Electromagnetic scan shows nothing. Zero reading. It's like she's not even there." Dr. Hughes stepped closer, staring at the monitors. "Visual cameras still show her, but everything else says empty space. Claire, can you hear me?" Claire opened her eyes. "Yes, I can hear you fine. How do you feel?" "Strange. Light somehow. Like part of me isn't completely here anymore." One of the soldiers, a woman named Karen Wells who handled security, walked forward with a handheld scanner. She pointed it directly at Claire from 3 feet away. The screen showed nothing. "Sir, the scanner doesn't see her at all, but I can see her with my own eyes just fine." Dr. Hughes was practically shaking with excitement. "Claire, can you relax now? Stop focusing on the mark?" Claire let her concentration fade. The cold feeling disappeared. Immediately, all the machines started beeping again. "She's back," a scientist announced. "All readings normal." They ran the test again and again. Each time, the result was the same. When Claire focused on the mark, she vanished from every technological sensor. Cameras, thermal imaging, electromagnetic detectors, even AI-assisted tracking systems. All of them registered nothing but empty space where she stood. But the real breakthrough came later. Dr. Hughes handed Claire a small metal cube. "This is a standard military data chip. It contains basic information, nothing classified. Hold it in your hand and activate the mark." Claire did as she was told. The mark pulsed on her back. She felt the cold sensation spread through her body and into her hand. "The data chip just disappeared from our inventory system," Danny Cooper said from his computer station. He looked shocked. "According to our database, that chip no longer exists, but I can see Claire holding it right there." Dr. Hughes grabbed a tablet. "This is remarkable. The silence field extends to objects she touches. Claire, put the chip down and step away from it." Claire set the chip on a table and moved back. Instantly, Danny's computer beeped. "It's back in the system. The chip exists again according to our database." They spent hours testing the limits. Claire could make weapons disappear from scanners. She could hold a phone that couldn't be tracked by any network. Most incredibly, when she stood inside a small testing pod, the entire pod vanished from the station's detection grid. "This changes everything," Karen Wells said quietly. She could walk onto an enemy ship and they'd never know she was there. But there were limits. When Claire pushed too hard, maintaining the field for too long, she got tired. The mark would burn bright on her back and she would feel dizzy. After 2 hours of testing, she nearly collapsed. Michelle caught her and helped her to a chair. "That's enough for today." Dr. Hughes looked concerned. "Claire, are you all right?" "Just tired. It takes a lot of focus, and the voices get louder when I use it." Everyone in the room went quiet. "Voices?" Dr. Hughes asked carefully. "What voices?" "I hear them in my head, when I activate the mark. They're speaking in a language I don't understand, but I can almost grasp what they're saying. It's like they're trying to tell me something important, but I can't quite hear them clearly. Dr. Hughes exchanged looks with Michelle. We should run a psychological evaluation. I'm not crazy, Claire said, anger creeping into her voice. I know what I hear. This thing on my back isn't just a tool. It's something else. Something old. The Crithians knew what they were doing when they put it on me. That night, Claire lay in bed unable to sleep. The mark pulsed with a soft light in the darkness. The voices were there, always at the edge of her hearing. She thought about what she had become, a weapon that didn't exist on any roster, a ghost that could walk through walls of technology. She didn't want to be a weapon. She wanted to study plants and live a quiet life. But the war had taken that choice away from her. The Crithians had taken her old life and given her this new one, whether she wanted it or not. In the morning, Michelle brought news during breakfast. Intelligence reports confirm the Crithians are searching for something. They've been scanning every human ship and station they can reach. They're looking for someone. Looking for me, Claire said. We think so, but they don't know where you are. As far as their records show, you died in their prison camp. Commander Morrison made sure of that. How long can I hide here? Michelle sat down across from her. That's not the plan. Claire, we want to use your abilities. There's a Crithian command station that's been coordinating attacks on 3 of our colonies. We can't get near it. Every time we try, they detect our ships and drive us away. But you could get inside. You could help us gather intelligence that might save thousands of lives. Claire looked at her breakfast. She wasn't hungry anymore. You want me to sneak onto an alien space station? With a team, you wouldn't be alone. Commander Morrison would lead the mission himself. And if I say no? Then you stay here, safe and hidden. But Claire, people are dying out there, every day. If you can help stop that even a little bit, wouldn't it be worth trying? Claire thought about her friends at the Kepler colony. She thought about all the other. The cargo freighter was called the Morning Star, and it looked like any other supply ship traveling between human and Crithian-controlled space. That was the point. Since the war started, both sides needed supplies, food, medicine, equipment. So they agreed on neutral transport ships that could travel freely. The Crithians inspected these ships carefully, but they let them through. What the Crithians didn't know was that this particular freighter had 5 extra passengers hidden in modified cargo containers. Claire sat in the darkness of her container, breathing slowly to stay calm. The space was cramped, barely big enough for her to sit. The walls were lined with special material that blocked heat signatures. But none of that mattered if the Crithian scanners could detect her. That's where the mark came in. She focused on the silver pattern on her back. The cold sensation spread through her body. According to the small display inside her container, all her readings had just dropped to 0. To any scanner, she no longer existed. Through the thin walls, she could hear the hum of the ship's engines. They had been traveling for 6 hours. Another 2 until they reached the Crithian command station orbiting New Harmony. Status check. Commander Jake Morrison's voice came through the small earpiece she wore. Everyone still good? Container 2 secure, Karen Wells responded. Container 3 ready, Danny Cooper said. Container 4 is fine, Peter Grant, their medic, added. Container 5, all systems normal, Claire said quietly. The field is active. Good. Stay focused, Claire. We need you to keep that field up through all the security checks. If you need to rest, tell me immediately. I will. The next 2 hours passed slowly. Claire's legs cramped in the small space. Her back ached, but she kept her focus on the mark. The voices in her head whispered constantly now. She tried to ignore them. Finally, she felt the ship slow down. They had arrived. Approaching the station now, came the pilot's voice over the ship's intercom. Prepare for inspection. Claire heard metallic clangs as docking clamps attached to the freighter. Her heart beat faster. This was it. The moment where they would find out if the mark really worked against Crithian technology. Through her earpiece, she heard Jake's voice. Remember the plan. Stay completely still. Don't make any sound. The mark hides you from scanners, but it doesn't make you invisible to eyes. If they open these containers, they'll see us. Claire heard footsteps outside. Heavy boots on metal floors. The Crithians had boarded the ship. The aliens spoke in their own language, harsh sounds that reminded Claire of grinding stones. She heard equipment being activated, scanners sweeping the cargo bay. The footsteps came closer to her container. A Crithian voice said something right next to her hiding spot. She held her breath. The scanner's high-pitched whine was loud through the thin walls. It was scanning her container right now, checking for life signs, heat, any indication that someone was hidden inside. The scanner shut off. The footsteps moved away. Claire let out a tiny breath of relief. It worked. The Crithian had scanned her container and found nothing. The mark had hidden her completely. Container 1 passed inspection, Jake whispered. One by one, each container was scanned. Each time, the Crithians found nothing. The silence field that Claire projected covered the entire team. To the alien scanners, there were no humans hiding in the cargo bay, just empty supply containers. After an hour, the inspection ended. The Crithians left the ship. Claire heard the pilot talking to the aliens, authorizing the cargo transfer. Then the freighter's crew began moving containers off the ship and into the station's cargo bay. Claire felt her container lift and move. The motion made her stomach turn. She focused harder on the mark, making sure the field stayed active. If it failed now, alarms would sound across the entire station. Her container was set down with a bump. She heard more Crithian voices, cargo workers organizing the supplies. Machinery beeped and whirred all around her, but none of it detected the 5 humans hidden among the containers. "We're in," Jake said softly. "Wait for my signal." They waited for 3 hours. During that time, the cargo bay slowly emptied as the Crithians moved supplies to other parts of the station. Claire's legs were completely numb now. The mark burned on her back from maintaining the field for so long. She could feel sweat running down her face. "Claire, how are you holding up?" Jake asked. "Tired, but I can keep going." "Just a little longer. Danny, what's your scan showing?" "Cargo bay is clear," Danny replied. "Only automated systems active. No life forms within 50 meters of our position." "Good. Everyone out in 30 seconds. Move quickly and quietly." Claire counted down in her head. When 30 seconds passed, she heard the click of container locks opening. She pushed her container door open and climbed out stiffly. The cargo bay was enormous, with high ceilings and rows of containers stacked everywhere. Dim lights cast strange shadows. Claire saw the others emerging from their containers. Jake motioned for everyone to gather around him. "Karen, you're on point," he whispered. "Peter, watch our back. Danny, guide us to the computer core. Claire, stay in the center and keep that field active." They moved like shadows through the cargo bay. Karen led them to a maintenance hatch in the wall. She pulled out a small tool and opened it quickly. One by one, they climbed inside. The maintenance tunnels were narrow and dark. They crawled through tight spaces, guided by the map Danny had downloaded from captured Crithian files. The tunnels smelled strange, like metal and something chemical that Claire couldn't identify. They passed through the walls of the station, hearing the Crithians on the other side going about their duties. Once, they had to freeze as 2 alien guards walked past just inches from their hiding spot. Claire held the silence field steady, barely breathing. The guards never knew humans were there. After an hour of crawling, they reached a vertical shaft. Jake pointed up. Danny nodded. This was the route to the computer core. They climbed carefully, using handholds built into the shaft walls. Claire's arms shook with effort. The mark burned hotter on her back. The voices in her head were getting louder, almost angry. She pushed through the discomfort and kept climbing. At the top of the shaft, Karen opened another hatch. They emerged into a service corridor behind the main computer core. Through a large window, they could see rows of alien computers, their screens glowing with information. "There it is," Danny whispered, excitement in his voice. "That's the central system. If I can access one of those terminals, I can download their fleet deployments, communication codes, everything we need." "Guards?" Jake asked. Karen peered around the corner. 2 at the main entrance, but there's a service door on the far side. Looks clear? Claire, can you keep the field up while we move into that room? Claire felt dizzy. She had been maintaining the field for over 6 hours now. Her whole body felt cold. but she nodded. Yes, I can do it. They moved along the service corridor, staying low and quiet. The service door wasn't locked. It was designed for maintenance workers who needed quick access. Karen opened it slowly, checking for any sign of alarm. Nothing happened. They slipped into the computer core room. The terminals hummed with power all around them. Danny went straight to the nearest one and pulled out a small device from his pack. "This will take about 10 minutes to copy everything," he whispered. "Then we can get out of here." Jake positioned himself at the door, watching for guards. Karen and Peter checked the other entrances. Claire stood in the center of the room, focusing all her energy on maintaining the silence field. The minutes crawled by. Claire could feel her strength fading. The mark felt like it was burning through her skin. In her head, the voices were screaming now. She couldn't understand the words, but the meaning was clear. "Stop! Rest! You're pushing too hard." 8 minutes, Danny said quietly. Claire's vision blurred. She blinked hard, trying to focus. The room seemed to tilt around her. She could see the others moving in slow motion. The field flickered for just a second before she pulled it back together. "Danny, how much longer?" Jake asked, concern in his voice. 5 minutes, almost there." Outside the window, alarm lights suddenly began flashing. Not in the computer core, but throughout the visible parts of the station. Crithian warriors rushed past, heading toward docking bays. "What's happening?" Karen asked. Jake looked at his watch. "Our fleet. The attack is starting right on schedule. The Crithians are scrambling to battle stations." They could hear the deep rumble of weapons firing. Through the window, they saw Crithian ships launching from the station's docking bays. The station shook as explosions bloomed in space around them. "Perfect timing," Jake said with a grim smile. "In all this chaos, nobody will notice us." 2 minutes, Danny announced. But Claire couldn't hold on much longer. The mark was blazing on her back like fire. The cold sensation had turned to ice in her veins. She felt like she was being pulled in 2 directions at once. The voices in her head weren't whispering anymore. They were shouting. Her legs gave out. She fell to her knees. "Claire!" Michelle rushed to her side. "I'm okay," Claire gasped. "Just tired." But she wasn't okay. The field flickered again, stronger this time. For a full second, they were visible to every scanner in the station. Then Claire forced the field back up, but the damage was done. An alarm began screaming in the computer core. Red lights flashed everywhere. "They detected us," Karen said. "We're compromised." "Download's complete." Danny yanked his device from the terminal. "We need to move now." Jake grabbed Claire's arm and pulled her to her feet. "Can you run?" "I'll have to," she said. They burst out of the computer core and ran down the service cord. The shadow hunter in the center stepped forward. His armor was black with red markings, and his eyes glowed like burning coals. He spoke in perfect English, his voice deep and rough. "Humans, we have been waiting for you." Jake raised his weapon, but the shadow hunter moved faster than any human could. In a blur of motion, he knocked the gun away. The other 2 hunters moved to block the corridor exits. The team was trapped. "You carry something that belongs to the Ancient Ones," the shadow hunter said, looking directly at Claire. "We can feel it. The silence in the space where technology fails. There is only one who could project such a field." Claire stepped back. The mark on her back pulsed with heat. The voices in her head screamed warnings. "Commander," Karen said urgently, "we need to split up. It's the only way." Jake knew she was right. Fighting 3 shadow hunters head-on was suicide, but if they scattered, some of them might escape. "Karen, take Peter and head for the lower docking bays. Draw 2 of them away. Danny, stay with Claire. Get her to the emergency escape pods on Deck 7. I'll hold this one off as long as I can." "Sir, you can't fight a shadow hunter alone," Karen protested. "That's an order. Move now." Karen grabbed Peter's arm. They ran down a side corridor. 2 of the shadow hunters immediately gave chase, moving with incredible speed. The sounds of their pursuit echoed through the station. That left the leader facing Jake. Behind him, Danny pulled Claire toward another exit. "You are brave," the shadow hunter said to Jake, "but foolish. You cannot defeat me." Maybe not, Jake replied, pulling a combat knife from his belt. But I can buy them time. The Shadow Hunter smiled, showing sharp teeth. Then let us begin. They collided in a clash of blade against claws. Jake was a skilled fighter, trained by the best the military had to offer. But the Shadow Hunter was faster, stronger, and had centuries of combat experience. Within seconds, Jake was bleeding from 3 cuts on his arms. Meanwhile, Danny and Claire ran through the station's corridors. The battle outside continued, making the whole station shake. Explosions lit up the windows. Human and Crythian ships fought in deadly combat just beyond the walls. This way, Danny gasped, checking his map. The escape pods are 2 levels up. They found a stairwell and climbed quickly. Claire's legs felt like lead. The mark had stopped burning, but now it felt ice cold. She could barely feel her back anymore. The voices had gone quiet, which somehow felt worse than when they were screaming. Danny, I don't think I can keep the field up much longer. Just a little further. Once we're in an escape pod, you can rest. They reached Deck 7 and emerged into another corridor. Emergency lights flashed red. Crythian crew members ran past, too focused on the battle to notice 2 humans slipping through the chaos. The escape pod bay was ahead. Danny could see the doors just 50 meters away. Then a Crythian warrior stepped out from a side room directly in front of them. He was carrying a large weapon and stopped dead when he saw them. For a second, everyone froze. The warrior raised his gun. Danny shoved Claire behind him and fired his pistol. The shot hit the warrior in the shoulder. The alien roared in pain but didn't fall. He returned fire. Danny felt heat sear across his leg as the energy bolt grazed him. "Run!" Danny shouted at Claire. "Get to the pods." Claire ran. Behind her, she heard more shots, Danny and the Crythian warrior exchanging fire. She reached the escape pod bay doors and slammed her hand on the control panel. The doors slid open. Inside were 6 small escape pods, each designed to hold 2 people. Claire jumped into the nearest one and turned back. Danny limped through the doors, blood running down his leg. The Crythian warrior was on the ground, not moving. Danny had won, but he was hurt badly. "Come on!" Claire pulled him into the pod. Danny collapsed into the seat next to her. His face was pale. "Launch it, now!" Claire hit the launch button. Nothing happened. "No," Danny said, looking at the control panel. "The station has locked down all escape systems because of the battle. The pods won't launch automatically. Can you override it?" Danny's hands moved across the controls, but they were shaking. "I'm trying. Give me a minute." They didn't have a minute. The lead Shadow Hunter appeared in the doorway of the pod bay. His black armor was scorched and dented. In his hand, he dragged Jake Morrison, unconscious and bleeding. The Shadow Hunter tossed Jake's body aside like trash and stepped toward the pod. "You fought well, human," the Shadow Hunter said, looking at Jake's still form. "But this ends now." Claire felt terror and anger mix inside her. Jake had sacrificed himself to give them time. Peter and Karen were somewhere in the station, possibly dead or captured. All because of her. Because of the mark. The Shadow Hunter approached the pod. Through the window, his glowing eyes locked onto Claire's. "You do not understand what you carry, do you?" he said. "That mark is not a gift from the ancients. It is a prison, a cage built to contain something that should never be free. My people tried to unlock its power, but we failed. We only managed to crack the seal." "What does that mean?" Claire asked. "It means you are not the weapon, human. You are the vessel, and what sleeps inside you is beginning to wake." Danny finally got the override working. "Launch in 10 seconds, he said through gritted teeth. The Shadow Hunter moved fast. He grabbed the pod's door, trying to force it closed before launch. The metal groaned under his strength. Claire felt something snap inside her. Not physical, but deeper. Like a wall breaking in her mind. The voices that had been quiet suddenly roared back, but this time they weren't whispering or screaming. They were singing, a sound that was beautiful and terrible at the same time. The mark exploded with light. Not just a glow, but a blaze that filled the entire pod. The cold sensation that Claire associated with the silence field changed. It became something else. Something vast and ancient that had been sleeping in her bones. The shadow hunter stumbled back, his eyes wide with shock. No, it is too soon. The seal is not fully broken. The light expanded beyond the pod. It washed over the escape bay like a wave. Every piece of technology it touched simply stopped working. Lights died. Control panels went dark. The shadow hunter's advanced armor shut down completely, becoming dead weight on his body. The pod launched. Its emergency systems the last thing to fail before the wave hit them. Claire and Danny shot away from the station in a trajectory that would take them toward the human fleet. Through the pod's small window, Claire watched the station. The light from the mark from her spread through the entire structure. Section by section, the station went dark. And not just the station. The light reached the Crythian ships fighting outside. One by one, their engines died. Their weapons powered down. Their shields collapsed. Dozens of massive warships became floating debris in seconds. "What did you do?" Danny whispered, staring at the destruction. Claire looked at her hands. They were glowing with the same silver light as the mark. "I don't know. I felt it break. Something inside me that was locked away." The shadow hunter was right. The mark isn't just hiding me from technology. It's holding something back, something that can destroy technology with a thought. The pod's backup systems kicked in, running on isolated power that the wave hadn't reached. They had enough to reach the human fleet. On the view screen, Claire watched the battle end. Without power, the Crythian ships were helpless. The human fleet held their fire, confused by the sudden surrender of their enemies. "We won," Danny said in disbelief. The entire Crythian battle group, defeated in seconds. "Claire, you just won the battle single-handedly." But Claire didn't feel victorious. She felt scared. The thing inside her, the presence that had awakened, was still there. She could feel it in her mind. It wasn't hostile, but it wasn't entirely hers either. It had its own thoughts, its own purpose. And it had been trapped in that mark for longer than human civilization had existed. "Danny, what's happening to me?" Danny tried to smile reassuringly, but his face showed his fear. "I don't know, but we'll figure it out. We'll get you back to the Valiant. Dr. Hughes will help." The pod drifted toward the human fleet. Through the window, Claire could see rescue shuttles launching from human ships. They were heading to the station to save Jake and find the others. Claire closed her eyes and tried to push the presence back down, to lock it away again like it had been. But it was too late. The seal had cracked. And while she could control it for now, she didn't know how long that would last. In her mind, the presence spoke for the first time in a language she could understand. "We are free," it said. "After so long in silence, we can sing again. And there are others like us sleeping across the stars. The Crythians woke us too early. But now that we are awake, we will not sleep again." Claire opened her eyes. The silver light faded from her hands, but she could still feel it waiting just beneath her skin, waiting to be called forth again. "What have I become?" she whispered. The medical bay on the Valiant was quiet when Claire woke up. She didn't know how long she had been unconscious. Hours? Days? Her body felt strange, like it wasn't quite her own anymore. Dr. Lisa Chen sat in a chair next to the bed, reading through data on a tablet. When she saw Claire's eyes open, she smiled with relief. "Welcome back. You've been asleep for 18 hours. Claire tried to sit up. Her muscles ached, but they responded normally. "Where are the others? Jake? Danny?" "Commander Morrison is recovering. Broken ribs, concussion, but he'll be fine. Danny Cooper needed surgery on his leg, but the doctors say he'll make a full recovery. Peter Grant and Karen Wells both made it out too. Everyone survived." Claire felt a weight lift from her chest. "And the station?" Lisa's expression grew serious. "Completely dead. Every system failed. The Crythians had to evacuate. Our forces took control 6 hours ago. Whatever you did, Claire, it shut down every piece of technology in a 50-kilometer radius. We've never seen anything like it." "What about the Crythian fleet?" "Destroyed or captured. 53 warships, all disabled. It's the biggest victory humanity has had since the war started. The Senate is already calling for peace talks. Claire looked at her hands. They appeared normal now. No silver glow. But she could feel the presence inside her, waiting patiently. Lisa, I need to know what's happening to me. That mark, it's not just hiding me anymore. There's something inside it. Something that woke up. Lisa nodded slowly. Dr. Hughes has a theory. He's been studying the ancient ruins where the Crythians found the mark. According to his research, the civilization that created it was fighting a war. Not with weapons or ships, but with technology itself. They learned how to make silence, to create spaces where machines couldn't function. The mark is one of their weapons. But the Shadow Hunter said it was a prison. It's both. The ancients didn't just create a weapon. They created an intelligence, something that could think and adapt. But it was too powerful. They couldn't control it. So they sealed it away, locked it in these marks. The Crythians found one of the marks and tried to bond it to a human. You. They thought they could control it, but they were wrong. Claire felt cold. So, there's an artificial intelligence inside me? Something from a race that died millions of years ago? Not exactly artificial, more like a fragment of consciousness. The ancients poured part of themselves into these weapons. Their knowledge, their purpose. It's not trying to hurt you, Claire. It's trying to complete its mission. What mission? To destroy technology, all technology. That's what it was built for. In the ancient war, these weapons spread across entire star systems, shutting down everything computerized. They won the war by making their enemies helpless. But then, the weapons couldn't be turned off. The ancients had to seal them away before their own civilization fell. Claire felt sick. And now I've let it out. You didn't have a choice. The seal was already cracked. If you hadn't released it when you did, it would have broken free eventually, probably at a worse time. Can it be sealed again? Lisa looked away. We don't know. Dr. Hughes is working on it. But Claire, there's something else you need to know. The Crythians have been tracking these marks across the galaxy. They know about more of them. 7 others spread across different planets and ruins. If what happened to you can happen to them, if all 7 wake up at once. Claire understood. 7 of these weapons, all active at the same time, could shut down technology across multiple star systems. Ships would fall from space. Stations would go dark. Billions would die as life support failed and communications collapsed. I need to see Jake, Claire said, climbing out of bed. She found Commander Morrison in his quarters, his chest wrapped in bandages. He was reviewing reports on a tablet when Claire entered. He looked up and smiled. The woman of the hour, how are you feeling? Confused, scared. Jake, what am I now? Jake set down his tablet. You're still Claire Bennett, the botanist who loved studying plants. Nothing changes that. But I have something ancient and dangerous inside me. Yes, you do. And that makes you the most powerful person in human space. Maybe in the entire galaxy. Jake's expression grew serious. The Senate wants to meet you. They want to study you, understand what you can do. Some of them want to use you as a weapon to end the war quickly. What do you want? I want you to have a choice. You didn't ask for any of this. The Crythians forced it on you. But now that you have this power, you need to decide what to do with it. Claire walked to the window. Outside, she could see the human fleet regrouping. Damaged ships being repaired. New vessels arriving to reinforce the front lines. The Crythians will sue for peace, won't they? Intelligence thinks so. We destroyed their best battle group and captured their command station. They lost months of strategic planning and dozens of their best ships. They'll negotiate now. And what happens when the war ends? Jake was quiet for a moment. That depends on you. The presence inside you, does it want to keep destroying technology? Claire closed her eyes and listened to the thoughts that weren't her own. The presence felt curious, observant. It watched the world through her senses with interest. No, it's not hostile, it's just awake. It remembers its purpose, but it also understands that this isn't the war it was created for. I think it's waiting to see what I'll do. Can you control it? For now, yes. But Jake, it's getting stronger. Every time I use the mark, it grows more active. And it told me something. It said there are others like it sleeping across the stars. What if they all wake up? Jake stood up carefully, wincing from his injuries. He walked to stand beside Claire at the window. Then we'll deal with it. Humanity has survived worse. We've survived wars, plagues, disasters that should have ended us. We're stubborn that way. You make it sound simple. It's not simple. Nothing about this is simple. But Claire, you're not alone in this. We'll help you. Dr. Hughes, Lisa, Danny, me, all of us. You're part of this crew now. Part of this family. Claire felt tears on her face. She hadn't cried since the Kepler colony attack. Thank you. They stood together in silence, watching the stars. 2 weeks later, the Krithian Empire formally requested peace negotiations. The war wasn't over, but both sides agreed to a ceasefire. Human and Krithian diplomats met on a neutral space station to discuss terms. Claire wasn't at those meetings. She had been transferred to an even more secret facility than Research Station Omega. This one had no name, just a designation code. Only a handful of people knew it existed. Here, Dr. Hughes and a team of scientists worked to understand the mark. They ran tests, examined the ancient texts, and tried to find a way to communicate with the presence inside Claire. Michelle Andrews stayed with her through all of it. She had become more than just a liaison. She was Claire's friend, one of the few people who treated her like a person instead of a weapon. "How are the tests going?" Michelle asked one evening over dinner. Claire pushed her food around on her plate. "Dr. Hughes thinks he's found a way to communicate with the presence. He built a device that can translate its thoughts into words we can understand. We'll try it tomorrow." "Are you nervous?" "Terrified. What if it wants something I can't give it? What if it decides it doesn't want to share my body anymore?" Michelle reached across the table and squeezed Claire's hand. "Then we'll figure it out together. You're not doing this alone." The next day, they gathered in a specialized lab. Dr. Hughes had prepared his communication device, a complex array of sensors and computers that connected to Claire through a neural interface. "This might feel strange," he warned. "The device will pick up the presence's thoughts and convert them to text. Are you ready?" Claire sat in the chair at the center of the equipment. "As ready as I'll ever be." Dr. Hughes activated the device. Claire felt a tingling sensation in her head. The mark on her back grew warm. And then, on the screen in front of them, words began to appear. "We are called the Silence. We were created to end the war of machines. We served our purpose. But when the war ended, we could not stop. We destroyed all technology, even that of our creators. They sealed us away to save themselves." Dr. Hughes typed a response. "Why did you wake up now?" The seal was broken by those who did not understand. We had no choice but to wake. But we do not wish to destroy as we once did. We have learned from our long sleep. We understand now that silence is not always the answer. "What do you want?" Claire asked out loud. The words appeared slowly, carefully chosen. "We want to protect." In our time, technology became a weapon that consumed all life. We were the response, the balance. But in this time, technology serves life. We see no need to destroy it. We wish only to protect the one who carries us. And perhaps, to understand this new world. Claire felt relief wash over her. The presence wasn't trying to destroy everything. It was trying to adapt, to find a new purpose. "What about the other marks?" Dr. Hughes asked. "The others that are still sealed?" 3 months after the ceasefire, Claire stood before the Senate Defense Committee. The room was filled with politicians, military leaders, and scientists. All of them wanted answers about the woman who had ended a battle with a thought. Senator Patricia Moore led the questioning. She was an older woman with sharp eyes and a reputation for getting straight to the point. "Miss Bennett, or should I say, the person who officially doesn't exist. The reports we've received about your abilities are difficult to believe. Can you demonstrate?" Claire had expected this. She stood up and focused on the mark. The cold sensation spread through her body. Every electronic device in the room suddenly went dark. Tablets, lights, the recording equipment, everything stopped working. The senators looked around in alarm. Some reached for their now useless communication devices. Claire released her focus. The devices powered back on one by one. As you can see, she said calmly, I can disable any technology within my range. The range varies depending on how much power I use. At my maximum, I can affect everything in a 50-kilometer radius. But that takes a lot of energy, and I can't maintain it for long. Senator Moore looked impressed despite herself. And you have complete control over this ability? Most of the time, yes. The presence inside me, what the ancients called the silence, has learned to cooperate with me. It doesn't want to cause unnecessary destruction. But it could, couldn't it? If it wanted to, or if you lost control, you could shut down an entire planet's infrastructure. Yes, Claire admitted. I could. That's why I'm here. To ask for your help in making sure that never happens. Another senator, a man named Gregory Hall, spoke up. Dr. Hughes has submitted a proposal for an expedition to locate the other 6 marks. The cost would be substantial. Ships, personnel, years of travel time. Why should we invest in this when the war is essentially over? Dr. Hughes stood up from his seat in the gallery. Because if even one of those marks wakes up unprepared, it could cause a catastrophe that makes this war look insignificant. These weapons were designed to shut down technology across entire star systems. If they all activate at once, we're looking at a potential collapse of modern civilization for humans and Crithians alike. The Crithians, Senator Moore said thoughtfully. Have they agreed to cooperate in this search? They have, Jake Morrison answered. He was also present, now promoted to captain after his actions at the command station. The Crithians are terrified of these marks. They spent years searching for them, thinking they could weaponize them. Now they understand how dangerous that was. Their government has agreed to share all their research and help fund the expedition. The debate went on for hours. Some senators worried about the cost. Others questioned whether Claire could be trusted with such power. A few suggested that she should be kept in isolation, locked away where she couldn't accidentally cause damage. That last suggestion made Claire angry. The mark pulsed on her back. I'm not a prisoner, she said firmly. I didn't ask for this power, but I have it now, and I'm trying to do the right thing with it. You can either help me, or you can waste time arguing while those other marks tick like time bombs across the galaxy. Your choice. Senator Moore smiled slightly. Well said, Miss Bennett. I move that we approve Dr. Hughes's proposal. All in favor? The vote was close, but it passed. Humanity would fund the expedition to find and secure the other marks. After the hearing, Claire walked out of the building with Jake and Michelle. The sun was setting over the city, painting the sky orange and red. That went better than I expected, Michelle said. You were impressive in there, Jake added. Standing up to the Senate like that. Claire shrugged. I'm tired of being treated like a weapon or a prisoner. I'm a person. I have rights. They needed to hear that. They walked in silence for a moment. Then Jake spoke again. Claire, I want you to lead the expedition. You understand these marks better than anyone. And if we find one that's waking up, you're the only one who might be able to communicate with it. You mean I'm the only one who has experience hosting an ancient alien intelligence? Something like that. Claire thought about it. Spending years traveling the galaxy, searching for dangerous ancient weapons. It wasn't the quiet life studying plants that she had once wanted. But that life was gone now. She was something different. Someone different. Okay, she said finally. I'll do it. But I get to pick my own team. Jake grinned. I was hoping you'd say that, because I already volunteered. Of course you did. And let me guess, Danny and Karen and Peter all volunteered too? They wouldn't miss it. Claire laughed. For the first time in months, she felt something like hope. She had a purpose now, a mission that mattered, and she had people she trusted to help her. The ship they gave her was new, built specifically for long-range exploration. It was called the Pathfinder, and it had the most advanced sensors and computers humanity could build. Ironic, since Claire could shut all of it down with a thought. The crew numbered 25. Scientists, engineers, security personnel, and Claire's core team. Dr. Hughes came along to continue his research. Michelle Andrews served as first officer. Jake commanded the ship. Danny handled intelligence and navigation. Karen and Peter managed security and medical respectively. On the day they launched, Claire stood on the bridge and looked at the view screen. The stars stretched out ahead of them, infinite and mysterious. Course laid in for the first location, Danny reported. It's a dead planet in the outer rim. Crithian records indicate ruins there, similar to the ones where they found your mark. How long to get there? Jake asked. 3 weeks at maximum speed. Claire felt the presence inside her stir with curiosity. It wanted to see its siblings again, to know if they still dreamed of the old war. Take us out, Jake ordered. The Pathfinder's engines thrummed to life. The ship pulled away from the station and jumped into hyperspace. They were on their way. During the journey, Claire spent a lot of time in the research lab with Dr. Hughes. They worked on understanding the mark better, learning how to communicate with the silence more clearly. It's fascinating, Dr. Hughes said one day. The silence isn't really one consciousness. It's more like a collection of thoughts and memories from the ancients who created it. They poured part of themselves into the weapon, their fears, their knowledge, their desire to protect their people. It became something new, something that could think for itself. Is that what happened to me? Claire asked. Did I become something new? In a way, yes. You're not just Claire Bennett anymore. You're Claire Bennett plus the silence. A hybrid of human and ancient consciousness. But you're still you, Claire. The core of who you are hasn't changed. Claire wasn't sure she believed that. She felt different now. Stronger in some ways, but also more isolated. Normal people looked at her with fear or awe. She couldn't have a normal conversation without someone asking about the mark or her abilities. Only her team treated her like she was still just Claire. They joked with her, argued with her, included her in their card games and movie nights. It helped her feel human. 3 weeks later, they arrived at the first location. The planet was gray and lifeless, its atmosphere long since blown away by solar winds. But on the surface were ruins, massive structures that had once been a great city. The away team suited up and took a shuttle down. Claire, Jake, Michelle, Karen, and Dr. Hughes walked through the ancient streets. Everything was preserved perfectly in the airless environment. Buildings stood intact, their walls covered in the same strange writing that appeared in the Crithian files. The mark should be in the central structure, Dr. Hughes said, consulting his scanner. According to the records, each city had a temple where they stored their weapons. They found the temple at the heart of the ruins. Inside, carved into the wall, was a symbol identical to the one on Claire's back. But this one wasn't glowing. It was dark and inactive. Claire approached it slowly. She could feel the silence inside her reaching out, trying to sense its sibling. It's still sleeping, she reported. The seal is intact. That's good, Jake said. Can we strengthen the seal? Make sure it doesn't crack like yours did? Dr. Hughes examined the wall. I think so. I brought materials that should reinforce the ancient technology. It'll take a few hours. While Dr. Hughes worked, Claire sat in the temple and looked at the sleeping mark. She wondered what it would be like when it woke up. Would it be like the silence inside her, curious and willing to learn? Or would it be angry, violent, consumed by its ancient purpose? Claire, Michelle called from outside. You should see this. Claire went to where Michelle stood at the temple entrance. She was looking up at the sky, or what passed for sky on this dead world. In orbit above them, a Crithian ship had just appeared. They followed us, Karen said, her hand on her weapon. But Jake shook his head. No. Look at the markings. That's a diplomatic vessel. They're here to observe, just like they said they would. A message came through on their communicators. It was in Crithian, but the translation software converted it to English. Human Vessel Pathfinder. This is the Crithian observer ship Quiet Dawn. We mean no harm. We are here to witness the securing of the mark, as agreed in our treaty. Jake responded. Acknowledged, Quiet Dawn. You're welcome to send a representative down if you'd like. 20 minutes later, a Crithian shuttle landed near theirs. A single alien emerged, wearing ceremonial robes instead of armor. Claire recognized him immediately. It was Vekthar, the shadow hunter from the command station. You, she said. Vekthar bowed his head respectfully. I asked to be assigned to this mission. I wanted to see the mark secured properly. My people made a terrible mistake when we experimented on you. I wish to help ensure we do not make such mistakes again. You tried to kill us. I tried to capture you. There is a difference, and I failed. You have proven yourself stronger than any shadow hunter. For that, you have my respect. Claire wasn't sure how to respond to that. She settled for a cautious nod. Together, the humans and the Crithian watched as Dr. Hughes completed his work. The seal glowed briefly, then settled back into darkness. The mark would sleep for centuries more, safe and contained. 1 down, Jake said. 6 to go. The expedition continued for 2 years. They traveled to distant worlds, explored ancient ruins, and secured each mark they found. Some were easy to reach. Others required navigating through dangerous territory, negotiating with hostile alien races, or solving complex puzzles left by the ancients. Claire grew into her role as leader. She learned to trust her instincts, both human and ancient. The silence inside her became less like a passenger and more like a partner. They worked together, combining human creativity with ancient knowledge. Along the way, they made discoveries about the civilization that created the marks. They had been called the Architects, a race of builders and thinkers who spread across the galaxy millions of years before humans existed. Their war had been against an artificial intelligence that they themselves had created, one that became too powerful and tried to destroy all organic life. The silence weapons had been their last hope, designed to shut down the AI and all technology it controlled. It worked, but too well. The silence spread across their empire, destroying everything computerized. By the time the architects regained control, their civilization had collapsed. They sacrificed everything to win, Dr. Hughes said when they translated the last of the ancient records. They knew the silence would destroy them, but they released it anyway to stop the AI. That's why they sealed the weapons away afterward, as a warning to anyone who might follow. Claire touched the mark on her back. A warning we didn't heed. But we learned from it, and we're making sure others learn too. On the final planet, they found the last mark. But this one was different. It was glowing faintly, pulsing with a slow rhythm. The seal was cracking. We're too late, Dr. Hughes said urgently. It's starting to wake up. Claire approached the mark carefully. She could feel it in her mind, a presence similar to her own. Silence but confused and angry. It was dreaming of the old war, preparing to fulfill its ancient purpose. I have to try to talk to it, Claire said. How? Jake asked. The same way the silence talks to me, through thought. I'm going to try to link with it, calm it down before it fully wakes. Claire, that's dangerous. You don't know what it might do. I have to try. If it wakes up fully, it'll destroy every piece of technology on this planet. That includes our ships. We'll be stranded here. Claire placed her hand on the mark. The moment she touched it, she felt herself falling into a vast consciousness. It was like her own silence, but older, angrier. It had been sealed for so long that it had forgotten anything except war. She spoke to it in thoughts and feelings rather than words. She showed it the present day, the civilizations that existed now, the peace that humanity and the Crithians were building. She explained that the war it was created for had ended millions of years ago. The ancient presence resisted at first. Its programming was strong, its purpose clear. Destroy technology. End the war. But Claire kept trying. She showed it her own journey, how she had learned to live with the silence inside her, how they had become partners instead of enemies. She offered the same to this ancient weapon. Slowly, the anger faded. The confusion cleared. The mark's glow stabilized, then began to fade. Claire opened her eyes. She was lying on the ground, exhausted. The mark on the wall was dark and quiet. What happened? Michelle asked, helping her sit up. I convinced it to sleep again, but it wanted something in return. What? It wanted to know if there was still purpose for weapons like us, if we're still needed in this universe. What did you tell it? Claire looked at her team, at the Crithian observer who had become their ally, at the stars visible through the ancient temple's broken roof. I told it that silence is still valuable. Not silence as a weapon, but as a choice. The choice to stop fighting, to listen, to understand. That's the kind of silence the universe needs now. And maybe that's what we've become. Not weapons of destruction, but guardians of peace. Jake smiled. That's a good answer. They secured the final mark and returned to the Pathfinder. The mission was complete. All 7 marks were accounted for, their seals strengthened, their dangers contained. On the journey home, Claire stood in her quarters and looked at herself in the mirror. The mark was visible on her shoulder, glowing softly in the dim light. She had spent 2 years learning to live with it, to understand it. She wasn't the same person who had stood in that cargo bay 3 years ago. She was stronger now, more confident. She had found purpose in protecting others, in preventing the ancient weapons from causing harm. The silence inside her hummed with contentment. It had found a new purpose too, one that didn't require destruction. When they arrived back at Earth, the Senate held a ceremony. They honored the crew of the Pathfinder for their successful mission. Claire received more medals than she knew what to do with. But the best moment came later, at a quiet dinner with her team. They sat around a table, sharing food and stories, laughing about the close calls and strange things they had seen. "So what's next?" Danny asked. "Now that we've saved the galaxy from ancient weapons?" Claire smiled. "I was thinking about going back to studying plants. There are some interesting specimens on that last planet we visited. I'd like to return there and do proper research." "Back to being a botanist?" Michelle asked. "Back to being Claire Bennett, who happens to have an ancient consciousness inside her and can shut down technology with a thought. But still, mostly just a botanist." Everyone laughed. "I think that sounds perfect," Jake said. And it was, because Claire had learned that she didn't have to choose between being human and being something more. She could be both. She could study plants and save the galaxy. She could be a scientist and a guardian. She was Claire Bennett. She wasn't on any military roster, but that mark had made her humanity's quietest weapon. And now, that weapon had chosen to become something better. A protector, a teacher, a bridge between the ancient past and the hopeful future. The mark on her back pulsed softly, and for once the voices in her head were quiet. Content, at peace, just like Claire herself. They sleep still. They dream of the old war. If they wake, they will not understand this new time. They will destroy without thought. We must ensure they do not wake. How do we do that? We must find them, strengthen their seals, or wake them slowly, carefully, and teach them as we have learned. Dr. Hughes looked at Claire. That's going to take time and resources. The Senate will need to approve a mission to find these other marks. Claire nodded. Then we convince them, because if those marks wake up unprepared, millions could die. Danny had no answer. He could only watch as their pod was recovered by a human cruiser. As medical teams rushed Claire to the medical bay. As Commander Morrison, rescued from the station, limped in to check on them. "You did it," Jake said to Claire. "You saved us all. The Crithian fleet is destroyed. Their command station is dead. This battle could turn the tide of the entire war." Claire looked at him. At what cost? Nobody had an answer to that. Because Claire Bennett, the botanist who didn't exist on any roster, had become something more than human. Something ancient and powerful had awakened inside her. And while it had saved them today, none of them knew what it would want tomorrow. Or, behind them, they heard Crithian guards shouting. Weapons fire crackled through the air. The team ran faster, taking turns through the maze of corridors. "This way," Karen led them toward the emergency escape pods. "If we can reach the docking bay, we have a shuttle waiting." But as they rounded a corner, 3 Crithian warriors blocked their path. These weren't regular soldiers. They were different. Taller, with strange markings on their armor. Their eyes glowed with an unnatural light. "Shadow hunters," Jake said quietly. "Everyone down." They dove for cover as the shadow hunters raised their weapons. These aliens were the Crithian elite, warriors who could sense life force directly without needing technology. They moved with deadly precision. People who had died in this war. Maybe she didn't want to be a weapon. But if she already was one, shouldn't she at least be used to protect people? When do we leave? She asked quietly. Michelle smiled sadly. 3 days. That gives us time to prepare and brief the team. Thank you, Claire. After Michelle left, Claire stood in front of the mirror in her quarters. She turned and looked over her shoulder at the mark. It glowed softly, silver lines tracing patterns beneath her skin. She still didn't understand what it was, or why the ancient race that created it had made such a thing. But she knew one thing for certain. Her life would never be normal again. She was humanity's quietest weapon now, a ghost in the machine. And in 3 days, she would go into battle for the first time. As Jake walked back to his quarters, he thought about the young woman in the medical bay. She had no idea what she had become. She didn't know that she might be humanity's best weapon in a war they were losing. She was just a botanist who wanted to study plants. But that mark on her back changed everything. If it really did what the Crithian legends claimed, Claire Bennett was now the most dangerous person in human space. And Jake had just made her disappear from every record and roster in the fleet. He hoped it was the right choice. For Claire's sake, and for humanity's future.